Good evening and welcome along to NUFC Matters, the Friday night show with the three amigos, and we always have a guest on, or a few guests. And our first half hour, we're pleased to welcome Mark Corby, who runs NUFC 1980-1994 on Facebook and Twitter. Fantastic site on Facebook. Really, you get on there. There's loads of videos and stuff. He's got a YouTube page. Just get on it, because anyone of a certain vintage amongst our support would love it. But welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invite, lads. Appreciate it.
Good to have you
Evening, Mark.
Evening, boys.
Well, as always, we'll leave it in the hands of the supporters in what direction we want to go. We're not gonna have our say tonight on issues. We'll let you take over. And 100% Mags comes in with the first question. He says, "What do you make of the statement made by Lee Johnny on behalf of Ashley, and what are your thoughts on what it could mean going forward for Newcastle United?" So, Mark, as a guest, we'll give you the first chance to answer that. What's your views on that statement today?
We're still in limbo, aren't we, lads? It's as simple as that. I mean, as we spoke before we come live, you know, as a supporter, you just wonder, where do we go from here? You know, there's talk of Henry Maurice on the, you know, involved. I'm sure we'll come to that in more detail later. But in regards to Newcastle, I mean, I was just pleased that the season finished. I didn't take any joy out of the continued sort of battle between supporters and the media. The media would tell me one thing about the management and the way the club was moving forward. And as a supporter, seeing the vast majority of the games live, I wasn't brought, you know, going along with that. In regards to Mike Ashley, you know, is what's been said today. It's clear he wants to sell the club, but we're still in limbo, lads, aren't we? That statement was probably just a token gesture, and I suppose we'll see what really happens over the next couple of weeks.
I feel personally, before I come to you, Mitch, I feel personally this is the end game now for PCP. I feel that they've been pushed into a corner by Richard Masters, bullied into a corner by him. I hold him culpable for the way this has gone. I think he's had no balls in the situation. I think he's bottled it. I think it's a controversial takeover. We know because of who the major power brokers are in this PIF. However, this could have been answered and sorted a long time ago. Didn't need to drag it on for 17 weeks. If he had misgivings, if he wasn't happy about it, he could have stopped it. I think Ashley's statement via Lee Johnny today is a positive one, in the sense that, A, we know that there's a takeover going to happen at some point, because Ashley wants out and he wants to sell the club and he wants to sell it now. But I also feel it's a positive in the sense that Mike Ashley in 2017, after the breakdown in 2018 of that deal, called Amanda Staveley and PCP tyre kickers. At least it proves that their relationship is now improved and that she's not a tyre kicker. She's tried her best, but ultimately, through no fault of her own, it looks like it's gone pear-shaped.
Look, mate, the one thing that statement does make quite clear and utterly unambiguous, there's only one deal on the table. There's only one show in town, and Mike Ashley's committed to that deal. That's what the statement says. So, you know, the much vaunted Maurice bid is obviously not as advanced as people would have believed. And anyway, even if anybody did have something mobilised and ready to go, I don't expect anything could happen before Christmas. Anyway, now, you know, that's the reality of the situation. And so, you know, it comes back to a committed seller. And who really of us has ever said that about Mike Ashley? I've often said he was a difficult seller, but not a committed seller. He's a committed seller here. And you know, words reached us today that possibly he has the legal teams that he had on standby mobilised and ready to go, so and briefed. So it's we're not in the end game. We're now in extra time, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Steve, what's your take on that statement by Lee Charnley today?
To me, it showed that the desperation of Ashley to get rid of the club, to move it on. It showed the frustration of him, because he will be frustrated. He's left it in the hands of PCP, PIF, the Rubens, in the hope that they've got all their ducks in a row, which everybody thought they had. They thought they had. It's then been left in the hands of the Premier League, of which he's been part of for the last 13 years. he obviously thought that there were no issues, that it would. These were the buyers for Newcastle United. These were the people he wanted to hand the club over to, and now he's going to the jugular. Quite frankly, he's going to attack everybody involved in the Premier League. His legal team's going to be all over it like a rash, and he's probably going to fight tooth and nail to get what he wants. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past him to get what he wants. That's my take on the whole statement. I did say on last night's show that it's not over till the fat lady sings. I think I got a few comments about it. I think I was probably the only one on the show that thought that there was a lot more to the statement that had come out from PCP than people imagined. And I think having read over it time and time again, not only before I went to bed, but probably while I was asleep as well, because it seemed to be just something that just seemed to be in my brain that I couldn't shift. 6:30 this morning when I woke up, and I was getting messages already from other fans who were already up and about in the UK, not fans abroad, by the way, and not Mitch, because I think Mitch by then was on the beach. And
I was.
And I think we all were of the same feeling. The more we read it, the more we looked into it, the more we considered it, the more there was more to it than that sort of bland statement that came out, which was a press release by a PR company saying the certain words but missing out so many others.
Yeah, Southern Magpies, there's even all thoughts on where the fans can go from here. You can share any plans that you have. Well, we've seen it already. There's always activity when there's a crisis at Newcastle. We've seen a few Twitter accounts spring up already, which is often the case amongst our support. People mean well by doing that, but then it just means that we've got another group that we need to follow that gets 2,500 people, that then becomes a voice, that then changes and becomes something different. Mark, coming back to you, I mean, we've seen a petition launched today. That seems to, we've seen a couple, but one is really gaining traction. The one I've been sharing, which is directed towards the Premier League, of course. I think it was on about 16,500 signatures before it came to air. Also seeing people talking about getting a bus and going down to the Premier League. We've seen that attempted before and failed miserably when people were going to go down to the owner's big business. I never like to talk about it, never like to promote the sports brand, but we know where it is and what it is. Yes, what have you seen, and what do you think is the right course of action for supporters? What's your view? What would you be supportive of?
Well, I think we've just got to remain calm. I think that's a key word you lads have been saying for weeks and months when all this has been being played out. At the moment, it's still raw. People are still upset. As you rightly say there, there's a petition which I suppose will do no harm. Hopefully it'll do some good. It would be good if you mentioned the fan groups. I remember the first time I met Steve Hastie was back in the old Fans United days back. Christ, that would have been 2010ish when all the fans come together. Yeah, and it's just a case of gaining momentum. I mean, as you well know, lads, you can't please everyone. There'll be splinter groups going off. There'll be debates on what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. But ultimately, I keep going back to the actual focus of being a supporter. A lot of people now have got a huge decision to make. Even before this was played out, I wasn't sure whether I was going to renew this season for the first time in my life. And the reason was simple: sick of Mike Ashley's football club, and I just don't rate Steve Bruce. Wasn't liking the style of football. So I think first and foremost, people have got that decision to make. In regards to what we're doing next and try and force or, influence the decision by the Premier League. Again, I think we just need to remain calm and just see what the best course of action is. And hopefully everyone can pull together and do it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Neil, it's a lot of questions coming in with regards to PIF and whether you think that they would come back. Some people saying that they've been offended and, because of the amount of things that they've been asked to change, they've followed all the guidelines, they've done everything, but now they've hit a bump in the road, which we believe is something to do with, a change in a couple of words on the form, i.e. saying that the Saudi state is going to be the owner as opposed to PIF. which is what they've taken offence at. You know, is there a way back in? Is the door ajar for PIF?
I think it obviously still is, and they seem to have. The one thing that's frustrated me is seeing today people talking about there was a gloves off statement about to go out on Tuesday. I wish we'd had that 2 weeks ago. I wish we'd had that pushed back then, because ultimately it sounds like, certainly from the snippets we've all picked up, that we've been in this sort of Mexican standoff for about a couple of weeks. And so what on earth would they have had to lose by getting the gloves off? It surprises me. You know, when everybody was telling me nobody's walking away, and to see somebody walk away, it's super frustrating. Would they come back? Yes, but I think, I suspect why Ashley wants this deal to be resurrected is simply because he knows this is his last chance to get that amount of money for the club. We've talked for the last few weeks about the post-COVID football world, and the landscape's going to look exceptionally different. And I'm telling you now, the next person that comes along and bids for this club, if they've got half a brain, it'll be nowhere near 300 million.
Steve, a lot of people are saying as well about, you know, the way this is played out in the public. And I've had conversations today with Liam Kennedy, obviously from the Shields Gazette. I've spoke to Keith Downey from Sky Sports. I've also spoke to people on the buyer side and a couple of people at the club who I know. And the feeling I get is that, again, because this has been played out in the public with PR, that probably backfired a little bit on this takeover. Is that something that you would agree with? Do you think the fact that it's been played out in public has affected it?
You know what? The played out in public side has been at the behest of the press, not at the behest of the fans, because we haven't been able to have anything to do with it. It's been at the behest of certain people in the press who have wanted to create stories to wind us up, to get us involved, to create a story out of a silence. There was definitely a silence from PCP. There was definitely a silence from PAF, and there seemed to be a silence from the Premier League. But you know, from what I've read over the last 24 hours or 18 hours, there was certainly someone in the Premier League that was leaking information, that was leaking stories, that was talking to the press. And if that's right, which it looks like it is because names have been named, then that would imply that certain people in the press were happy to release their sources to various individuals, because those press guys are talking, and other people know who it was in the press that was, or who it was in the Premier League that was talking and releasing the statements. And yet, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out that that's something that Mike Ashley's going to go to town on, because his people are going to go. There was a massive breach here by the Premier League, a massive breach, because we now know, because we've seen statements and we've got press people who have confirmed it because of who they've talked to, that individuals in the Premier League leaked. That for me is it's a smoking gun that Ashley will go at. It's a smoking gun that he's looking for, because his PR people, but more importantly, his legal people will be chasing every single avenue to point that gun straight back at the Premier League now. And remember, he's a member of the Premier League. He's one of the 20 that sits around the table. He might not go himself. He might send Charlie. But I tell you what, at the next Premier League meeting, I wouldn't be surprised if he turned up and gave them all an absolute roasting.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Don't forget, guys, please like and share this. Just click the little thumb. That's all it takes. It helps us out getting the numbers up and getting the word out that we've got a show. In amongst this, Mark, we do forget that this is actually a football club. It's not a geopolitical football. It's a football club. And because of what's happened with COVID-19, we're in strange times. The season's just finished, but the pre-season is about to start after the Champions League and FA Cup is concluded, and we're back into the new season on the 12th of September. So Will Thurkett was asking, what do you lads think of Ryan Fraser looking like our first target for the window? Obviously, the transfer window is open now until October. Steve Bruce is now, as we know, head coach. He has a job to do. First of all, he has to persuade Mike Ashley to give him some money and enough money to be able to build a squad to stay in the Premier League again next year, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I tell you what, Ryan Fraser's a freebie, isn't he?
Well, I mean,
yeah. Mark, what about your views on that, mate?
Well, apparently Bruce met up with Ashley on Wednesday. We're hoping to hear what that was all about. What's Bruce's plans now that it's going to be obvious that he's definitely going to be part of Mike Ashley, Newcastle United for at least for the start of next season onwards, and as Mitch said, definitely until Christmas at least. Regarding targets, I've sort of just kept quiet about targets even when there was links to owners, because people get a little bit ahead of themselves. To be fair to Newcastle supporters, I don't think many of us did talk about the likes of Messi, etc. It was paper talk. It was just trying to stereotype Newcastle fans as being deluded. Yeah, and just talking about players who were, no Newcastle supporter I know started talking about any targets. And at this moment, the chap you just mentioned there, it's one of those. I think again we just need to pause a little bit. See what happens over the next couple of days or weeks. And ultimately, Bruce has got a job to do. And he's going to have to start building for next season because, quite frankly, what he's got at the moment isn't good enough. And we can digress again and talk about the likes of Joe Linton and the way that defenders have performed at times this season. And we're crying out for an attacking midfielder. But ultimately, we're just all in limbo. We don't know how much he's going to get, who his targets are. And it's the only people affected by all this, and you guys have said this all year, it's the supporters, because again, we just don't know where we're going from here. And it's just that horrible word of being in limbo.
Yeah, it is. Mitch, Ryan Fraser, I mean, we did talk about this briefly with Supermax the other night, and I think the consensus of opinion was a bit of a nightmare when we're shopping in the bargain basement looking for players relegated.
And in reference to the question as well, I did have Factor 50 on today, by the way. Look, I think with any signing at the minute, we've got to look at it and go, is this player better than what we've got? Is he better than what we've got? Welcome on board. And I don't care whether you're free or whether you cost 40 million. There's been another article written by somebody in the press today. I can't remember who it was. I only seen it briefly. Claiming it was the end of the dream of buy everyone, win everything at Newcastle United. And I don't know any one of our supporters who've demanded anything like that. That's just absolute bullshit. Let's call it as it is. There's none of us in the fan base wanted that, expected that, demanded that. We just want to be better. And you know what? With clever signings, people can make clever signings and improve a squad. But when you look at Nathan Ake going to bloody Man City for 41 million, that puts absolutely everything in perspective. But I think they're going to be the exceptions of the deals. This again, as we're coming into this post-COVID world, we're still seeing the effects on clubs across the spectrum. So I guess the question is do we trust our recruitment team and Steve Bruce to shop cannily? And that's a very scary statement to me.
Yes, Steve, Ryan Fraser, would you go for him? Are you happy to see him come to the club? It's been a 2-year chase by all accounts. Liam Kennedy's certainly covered this one from start to finish, and down to the player now. It
is, yeah. The only concern I would have is that when it came to the crunch in Project Restart, he didn't want to know. He didn't want to know his own club. That for me was a concern. Going back to what the two lads just said before there about signings and about the delusional way that the press talk. Do you remember those days when we spent 4 months talking about Alan Shearer signing for Newcastle, Tino Aspira being linked with her, Rob Lee being linked with her, David Ginola being linked with her, Warren Barton, Les Ferdinand? I can't recall a single story at that particular time from a pressman linking us with any of those players. And they arrived, and that was the excitement. That it was now we've got this fantasy football press, not fantasy football fans, fantasy football press, people in the media who are paid to just make stories up and throw concoctions out there and think that they might stick. And you know,
Aye.
I'm now getting very, very anti certain people in the press. I'm getting very anti the national press. I'm getting very anti the way that they go about and the way that they're treated. Well, they've always had this attitude towards Newcastle United fans, and this misnomer that we're some sort of delusional bunch who are expecting everything. And to that, I will just say, 65 years, man. 65 years. You know, 30 years of hurt at Liverpool, 30 years of hurt when, what did they win? Oh, they won the Super Cup. They won the European Cup. You know, they won the FA Cup. They won the League Cup. They won competitions that we've never even been in. And yet we get called delusional. And we haven't won anything since for 65 years. You know what? These press guys, they need to go back to college. They need to go back and understand what football's all about. And if they don't want to, don't write about it.
Yeah, fair play. I know you've only got about 10 minutes left. So, Mark, I want to talk about your page on Facebook, give you a chance to give it a bit of a plug and hopefully get a few more followers. People can follow you on Twitter, of course, NUFC _1980_1994. They can also follow you on Facebook, which is where I think I first stumbled upon you. We obviously met at the match, but then I realised it was you doing that page. Tell us a little bit about the page and why you set it up, Mark.
Believe it or not, it was on the back of relegation in 2009. Just got totally disillusioned with the club and set up the page with a couple of just some personal photos and some scans from some what I thought were rare books, because it was around about the time where you didn't have all the Chronicle didn't put all their pictures up and stuff like that, and then from that I got a lot of engagement through the likes of yourself and other people from different publications, and just sort of built up a lot of good relationships and did a little bit of work for yourself. Ironically, you did a great interview of the week with Darren Jackson. He was the first person I ever interviewed, and it was great to see him looking well. And you know, it was a great piece that you did. And I think you give us the opportunity to start writing, and then from then it was a case of just getting on Twitter, trying not to be too much involved with current affairs, because I find that that's what brings out the worst in me. Whereas when we go back to talking about what I call the good old days, even though it was probably worse on the pitch, I just find I can just remain a little bit calm in that. But it's amazing because 10 years has went very quickly, and you know, I've done a little bit of work with the BBC Northern Ireland recently for a project on Michael O'Neill. I know you guys were talking about him a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully that'll be aired soon. Sort of celebrating his time at Northern Ireland, so I contribute with the Newcastle side of it. Just things like that, you know, just keep trying to keep my nose clean, and as I say, as always, just trying to help people with the likes of yourself and bifferit.com with just when they need a little bit contributions towards their work, you know, but still enjoying it. And I don't know, I was hoping one day that I might pause it and start celebrating modern days more, but as we sit here today, we're still living in the past a little bit, aren't we, lads?
Yeah. 100% we are, and I think it's great. I mean, you know, the YouTube stuff that you've put up as well. I remember I did an advert years ago, and we had this hunt, didn't we, for the it was one of the very first years of the Premier League when he used to do Super Sundays, and me and my brother got recruited by Sky to do the actual opening credits, and we lost the actual footage of it. We couldn't find it, and I remember I think it wasn't a season went by when I wasn't inboxing you, Mark, going, "You haven't found that, have you yet?" But miraculous. As everything does, it turned up on the internet, and there we are in glorious Technicolor with Paul Weller's soundtrack over the top of it. It was great to see it, but there's some fantastic stuff on your YouTube page as well. People should get there if you want to revel in yesteryear and see some of the players that we had in some of the great players and some of the less illustrious players that we had in our time. There's some great memories on there. It's one of those pages though where you sit and watch it and you get dragged into something and you waste an entire night watching back on some things. So
I still do it, Steve. And just a quick message there. I mean, one of my projects, because you end up running out of material, you end up running out of contributors. You know, there's not that much footage out there from the 80s. In early the 90s, it's all up there. But what I started doing was just for my own sanity, was I went back to 74. Now, I would imagine Steve might have been going then. Steve Hastie, that is. Burnley semi-final. Yeah, I got some... no offence, mate.
Backhanded compliment there for you, Steve.
But I got some great fan footage from the Coppet Hillsborough when we beat Burnley, and I just started like compiling it all into sort of a fan footage right up to when we played Peterborough away, which no doubt you would have seen the footage from the terraces. And I just sort of wanted to celebrate the fans and celebrate the songs, the chants, you know, proper Joe driven songs, you know. And so watch out, that'll be coming out soon. I hope everyone enjoys it, because it's a good 20-minute sequence. For me, Newcastle United supporters had it just over 30 to 35 years. So
brilliant, that. Have you found my favourite chant yet?
Which one was that one?
You're going home in an effing ambulance.
Yes, it's on a game against QPR. Honestly,
brilliant.
In 1976 or something. I'll tell you what, Steve. I'll hunt it out, mate, and I'll send it to you.
Brilliant. You know what? I feel for you as well, Mark, because I know what Steve Wraith's like when he thinks you've got a bit of footage of him and he's looking for it and he's going to chase you. Because for the last 6 years he's been chasing me for the footage of him on the stage at the O2 singing with the Form and all together now. And I've got it on a little laptop somewhere. Yeah. Can I find it? And I tell you what, every 3 months you'll get a little message in. Have you found it yet? Have you found it yet? So I'm gonna have to find it, aren't I? Because he hounds you, doesn't he? He hounds you.
I'm interviewing.
He's a good.
Go on. I'm actually interviewing.
I was just going to say. Brilliant. I was going to say, Steve, you mentioned the O2. I can't go without blowing smoke up Steve's arse in a way, because he's been brilliant for my band as well. If you don't mind, Steve, I'll give the band a plug, the Good Souls. And Steve come and seen us, and like what he's seen, like what he heard. We're a cover band. We do the likes of Joy Division, New Order, Oasis, the Smiths, stuff like that. And Steve thought we would compliment Big Country, and Big Country, one of my favourite bands growing up. And Steve got the band on, and we've been back twice since then. So again, thanks for that, Steve. It's good to work together. It's good to help each other out. And you know, as long as we're still here, I think we'll always will, lad. So it's all good.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And the band's great. Good Souls, again, have a look for them on Facebook. If you love cover music and you like that kind of music, you're going to love them. We've got them on. Massive thing, which is now next year. Me and Alan McGee, obviously the former Oasis manager, we're putting on an indoor festival at the O2 Academy next year. Hopefully, everything will be back to normal by then. And, of course, the lads and the Good Souls are going to be on that as well. So, you know, it's all good. But time's caught us up with you, Mark. I know you need to get away. I think we've got to keep her indoors, sweet mate. But absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure having you on.
There's a thumb.
I'm sure we'll get you back on again at some point, mate.
Appreciate it, lads. Great to catch up with you, lads. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers, Mark. Good to see you, mate.
All the best, lads.
All the best.
And don't forget, you can catch Mark on Facebook and on Twitter. Basically on Twitter, NUFC _1980 _1994. And you can also find him with the same name, NUFC 1980 to 1994 on Facebook. Well worth a visit, and tune in to his YouTube as well. You'll waste a few hours watching stuff. Before our next guest come on, Rafa Benitez as God says, news on Twitter: Saudi offered the Premier League a substantial sum for a TV rights deal in the kingdom as a solution to piracy issue. Premier League understood to have dismissed the offer out of hand. The Premier League in Qatar's pocket. Lots of stuff like that coming in. Lots of stuff being leaked now. Lots of stuff coming out.
Welcome to 6 weeks. Welcome to 6 weeks ago on this very show.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Bain says if somebody from the Premier League has leaked to the press, breaches confidentiality, which of course he's right. Yep. Tom, he's still living in a bit of a dream here. Imagine the signings we'll be getting in with the Saudis in charge. Now wonder what sort of players Steve Bruce will bring in. Well, you know, that's unfortunately the position we're in now. Robert Guy says, how likely do you think it was that Mike Ashley tried to renegotiate the price at the 11th hour? If he did, the fault lies with him again. That isn't strictly true, Robert, from what we've heard. I do believe that he stuck with the deal. You know, the exclusivity period has come to an end. However, And, you know, if this is going to be rectified, if it's going to be resurrected, then Mike Ashley and PCP, PIF and the Rubens will have to renegotiate. I think he will score a little bit more financially, but that's why he needs to push this through, lads, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've got to also remember, Steve, that while this goes on, he's financing the club. You know, the club's ticking on. You know, the club's moving forward. You know, there's money that needs to be spent. And that's what, you know, the club's been sitting in limbo for a period of time. We thought that this was going to happen. It didn't. And it's now, as you said, it's in the hands of Mike Ashley. And in a way, that might be the catalyst that we need, because it's now a case of calm heads and allow the bull that is Mike Ashley to take control and get what he wants. And he does get what he wants normally.
We've got a few guests joining us throughout the evening. Our next guest is going to join us, Newcastle United fan, Dan Olsen. How are you, Daniel?
Hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks.
Hi, Dan.
Good to see you, mate.
Hey, Dan.
Good to see you. What's the situation with you, then, mate? How are you feeling? Nearly 24 hours on since the world came crashing down around the takeover. Daniel, what's your views?
Oh, well, at the moment, I'm kind of just wrapping my hand around what's actually happened. Trying to look at things objectively, looking at the political side, looking at the fan side, because there's plenty coming out on it at the moment. So there's a lot to take in, really. Yeah,
I mean, you hold Richard Masters in the Premier League responsible for this, Dan?
It looks like it at the moment. If you look at what Stavely said, and if you look at what's written in the press, why haven't we gotten answers over the last 4 months? The trust is probably going to seek legal counsel to see if they can take some sort of action against it. There's a petition now which gotten around 18,000 signings, I think, the last I checked. So there's going to be a severe backlash for the Premier League, definitely.
Daniel, I didn't do it in the intro, but you are part of a Twitter account which has played, I would say, quite a prolific role in this with giving people information, and that's NUFC 360. You're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram. You've got fantastic followers on there. Like myself, like Neil, and like Steve, you've come in for a bit of criticism throughout this whole process. How have you coped with that? You're considerably younger than us three put together. I can imagine for you it probably is a relatively new experience compared to what we've had to put up with over the years.
Yeah, of course, I'm overseas, so I'd say there's quite a difference between being in Newcastle and being around 2,000 miles away from it.
Yeah.
But there's been some criticism, and I'd say we've tried to maybe tone down the opinion bit of it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a minefield at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've tried to basically get on with relaying the news, maybe have some sort of opinion or a basic commentary on the matches, but as far as the takeover goes, it's been difficult to handle, and there seems to be a lot of politics behind it and things like that, which quite frankly we're fans, so and we have our types of jobs, so we don't know too much about it, but we've tried to tone things down to an extent when it comes to commentary and opinions, at least.
Yeah, fair enough. Big welcome to Chris Wallace from Gallagher Shots. Great to have you back on the show, mate.
Chris.
How have you been, mate? I know you've been the same as us, been absolutely devastated by the news that broke last night.
Oh, mate, that news yesterday hit me hard, just took the wind right out of your sails, didn't it? To be honest, mate, we recorded a video on Wednesday night, and everyone involved with our action had a mint time. It was just end of season award sort of thing. That was getting published and edited, then that's when the news hit. Then to go from such a high to that low of what we felt yesterday, I've tried to stay off social media today, mate, just because it's not going to be a good place. So I don't know when I'll be back on, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's not good, mate. It's not good for mental health either. And people belittled me a little bit when I put something out about that a couple of weeks ago. But I had a lot of inboxes about that. And Steve Hastie, you've seen it as well. There's been a lot of people affected by this takeover, and mentally that they haven't coped because of the situation they found themselves in, lockdown, in the house, not allowed to go out. People losing their jobs, people furloughed, and of course, ultimately, sadly, people, losing relatives through COVID, the illness, and the takeover has been running along parallel with it, and has been affecting people mentally, up and down the country.
Yeah, and people of all ages as well. We're not talking about older people. We're not talking about younger people. We're not talking about single people. We're not talking just about married people. People right across the spectrum. And if my inbox in DMs are anything to go by, the one saving grace I could say was that people are supporting each other. And I've had some fantastic messages of support, but I've also had the opportunity to support other people in private messages. And obviously I'll not breach any confidences, but in every situation, those people have explained that while everything that's been happening with COVID and lockdown and all of those other things, the thing that's kept them going has been the takeover in Newcastle United. And the thing that's dragging them down has been the takeover in Newcastle United and the impasse that seems to have been put on them by the Premier League. And that for me says an awful lot. And I think if I'm going to say anything about other people online, I would say think twice before you open your gob or press your keyboard, because it'll come back to haunt you at some particular point in time. But for the grace of God go I, because you know what? It's all well and good thinking you're a troll, but eventually we'll find out who you are. And eventually you'll get your comeuppance, because you'll be looking for help and you'll be looking for support. And for some of you, it might not be there. And don't come crying. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot of people asking about Luke Edwards tonight. I'm not going to show them all up. Look, I've given my opinion on Luke Edwards. He's a respected journalist. The guy's doing his job. Mitch, he's taken the opposite side to everybody again today. He's hammering PCP for his own reasons. It's a little bit strange, and obviously he's been championing the Henry Maurice story. It seems to be definite as far as he's concerned. What's your take on Edwards?
On Luke? Well, look, I've got history with Luke. When I used to do the paper review on True Faith, first had a website, I was doing the paper review, and he was writing for the Journal, and he used to constantly defend Kieran Dyer and everything from sticking his Ferrari into the swing bridge to on-field antics to off-field antics with Sir Bobby Robson, and so I'm probably not the best person to ask about Luke. At the same time, I know he's well liked by a lot of the other journalists in the region, and he's good at what he does. But during this takeover saga, he seems to have gone out of his way to be agitative. He seems to have gone out of his way to be deliberately confrontational. And there's just, throughout the whole of it, there's just been no need for that, in my opinion. I don't understand it, and I don't understand what the agenda is. And if he's Henry Maurice's champion, where are you, Henry?
Right.
Time for you to show. Where are you?
Look forward to
tell ISR to get the bid underway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Chris, it's been all out warfare at times on Twitter, as it always is. You're quite sensibly taking time out. I've had to take time out. The Luke Edwards scenario is a bit strange, isn't it? A lot of people, as I say, I'm just constantly getting questions about that. What do we take of it? What's your view? Your view being on that? That he's hammering PCP. He's entitled to do it. He's a journalist. He must have good reason.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I haven't really seen what's happened today, any stance on things today. But personally, I've got nothing bad to say against Luke. I've always got on with Luke, and I done an interview with him probably about 4 weeks ago, mate, and he said on that interview he does wind fans up, and he intentionally winds fans up just to get some interaction and some bites. And I don't know what he gets from it, but it's his account at the end of the day. He can do what he wants, and it's like I said, mate. He's never done anything to me, so.
No, that's fair enough. Daniel, obviously you're watching from afar. Does it surprise you the way that some of the guys in the media, not necessarily Luke, we've had Miguel Delaney, of course, who I had a rather online spat with and then just blocked him because I got sick of what he was putting out there. It's easy to do. That's all you do. If you disagree with somebody, block them and move on. Has it surprised you the amount of media who've either put their necks on the line or have been completely over the top? And for me, it appears clickbait because with your site, NUFC 360, essentially what you do is, you do share stuff which people would miss. I've got to be honest. I've watched what you've done more than I've watched any other time. And it's a good service. I just wish people would realise what you're actually doing. You're not stating facts. You're sharing links. You're sharing links which people would probably miss. You know what I mean? So what's your view been on how the media's handled this whole thing?
Well, if we're talking about Luke, I almost think it's funny at times because he seems to kind of get off of riling people up the wrong way. So that's one side of it. But there's also been some coverage in general, which I think it has been kind of one-sided. They've kind of set their some sort of agenda and push that. I think Guardian has been very one-sided in terms of pushing Be-In's agenda, and they've got some sort of contacts within that, and it's been a good source of news from them, and it's been interesting in some sort of way. And as you probably know, Steve, all PR is good PR.
Yes.
And going to Miguel Delaney, he's had some good pieces in the past on Mike Ashley and things like that, which have been on the NUFC supporters side, but in this case, he's been very much on the what do you call it? The humanitarian side of things. Yep. And that's fair, that's respectable, but he's kind of pushed that side over on our supporters, and I think that's very wrong of him to do, because that's not something that we can influence. We're fans of a club, and I think that's very different to being or a big difference to be part of Amnesty or organization like that, who has the power to influence that and have people on the inside that can do something about those things. So yeah, there's been parts where it's been one-sided, but I think local news, Athletic, those papers has covered things quite well.
Yeah. Go on, Mitch, if you want to make a point before.
Well, no, just what Dan said about Miguel Delaney. I don't know if you saw yesterday, he couldn't help himself. His last tweet with the final line, wonder if they'll come back in for Man United. And you're like, mate, after everything you've been doing, you've just shown your hand. You would be a terrible poker player. Dear me. It's just like, wow, is that your tell? Is that all you're really bothered about? You've just become everything you've accused us of being in the last 4 months. In one tweet.
I feel as though with Luke that when I read the articles, I feel as though I'm in some sort of twilight zone of sitting in the press room, and there's like a little private battle going on among the Northeast press to see who can be the most controversial, who can wind someone up the most. Because even when you see that the sort of little aside shows that they're playing among themselves, when somebody will say something and then there's a little commenter, oh well, you weren't like that when we went to so and so and all, and it's like there's a little private group, and they're playing this little private game, and it's like one of them's got to be controversial, or one of them's got to say something that to get a reaction among themselves. It's like they're playing a little game with it. It really is. And for me, it's so amateur. It's so unprofessional, and it's not worthy of people who are supposed to be professional journalists. And quite frankly, they all need to start looking at each other and take away that sort of humorous side that they're trying to play as though they're, because this would not happen if it wasn't for social media. They would be hung, drawn, and quartered by the editor if they were playing that sort of game with other members of other organisations, other newspapers, because it was supposed to be a cutthroat game. And at the minute, it's like a little private club.
Yeah. Daniel Simmons has asked Chris, the Newcastle statement today by Lee Charnley was carefully worded as a discreet message to all. What do we each make of it? So Chris, what did you make of the statement from Lee Charnley today?
So personally, like I said, stayed away from it. Haven't even read it. Apparently, he ended it with "never say never." Is that correct?
It was in there. Yeah, he more or less said he wanted this deal through. Mike Ashley wants this deal through. Never say never.
Yeah, for him to say never in that, it doesn't sit well with me. Like it's taken them this long to release a statement, then he's putting never say never in it. However, like that's giving us false hope once again. Like come out and give us some facts. Don't like beat about the bush about this one, man. Like we're all at a very, very low point now, and hopefully there's some substance to that this never say never thing, and there might be something around the corner. But if there's literally nothing right now, and he knows that there's nothing, and he's putting that sentence in there, that's really, really wound me up.
Same question to you, Daniel.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one for me as well. I saw Stavely responded to it, that she was quite happy that that he was committed still. Well, Ashley was committed still to the bid, but they still have to somehow get past the Premier League, and I don't see that happening. Well, at least this or the coming season. So why give that kind of false hope? What do you think you'll achieve, even with the petition going on at the moment? Things will take time. It won't happen overnight. It's not going to happen next week just because we have 20, 30, 50,000 people signing a petition. It's not going to happen because Mike Ashley is still committed to the bid. It has to happen because the Premier League will let it happen.
Yeah. Mitch, your views on this?
Well, like we said earlier, it makes it very clear there's no other show in town. The invisible man, Mr. Maurice, is not there with his 350 million. Certainly not officially. And therefore, until somebody puts that money on the table, ain't out happening other than can they resurrect this? I think it shows Mike Ashley's position quite clear that he's a willing seller. And how quickly does he become a desperate seller? One wonders.
Yeah. A lot of people suggesting that the statements come out because season tickets need to be renewed. Steve, what's your view on that?
No, I'm not for that one. I'm not for that one. Quite frankly, that the statements come out because, as Neil said, he's desperate to get it, and he's got £17 million now to spend on legal. He can spend that £17 million on his legal team, and he'll say at the Premier League match that, and he'll come at them and he's going to hound them. That's my take on it, because he's a Rottweiler, and he'll have. We know the type of people that he has in London. That the lawyer teams that Neil and I have come across over the last sort of 6 to 12 months and before that, and we know who he has at his disposal, and we know how he's going to go on, and he's not going to let this one go. I'm almost convinced that he is not going to let this one go. He has let the dogs of war out of the cage, and these are attack dogs that are going to go for the Premier League.
Yeah, fair enough. The BBC website is stating Ashley still 100% committed to the Saudi takeover. That was in a nutshell what he did say in his statement via Lee Charnley. Stephen Parker says, do you guys think if it is 100% proven that the Premier League has breached NDA, could this force a deal as it's a breach of contract? Chris?
I think we're going to hear a lot more over the next few days, mate. I think it's quite raw at the minute. Obviously, the news shocked everybody by the Ruben Stavely saying everything had been pulled. Shocked me. I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought it was either going to be a decision, either yes or no. I didn't think anyone would pull out at any point. And I think there's a lot more which is happening behind the scenes, whether or not the likes of the Saudis, PIF, and everyone involved has got a bit of information in regards to the Premier League and how long they've taken. And that's the reason why they've done it. Or they've readdressed it because, look, the current situation. Is Newcastle worth the amount of money that they were going to pay for the club? And that's what worries about me about this Maurice deal as well. Is he daft enough to come in and spend the same money as what the Saudis were? Because current situation, everything's dropping in price. So why would they go and spend 350 million on a club? We're not worth that. We're not. I don't care what anyone says. Doesn't
make sense, Chris, does it? No. Doesn't make sense at all.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see a lot more of this, Daniel, aren't we? We're going to see the fallout from this. We've had 17 weeks of agony wondering if this takeover was going to go through. Now we're going to have another 6 weeks of will it happen? Will we get it rectified? And obviously getting linked with lots of players that we won't end up signing.
Yeah, personally, I think to believe that this will be resurrected is a bit of an empty promise at the moment. If it will be, I don't think it'll take 6 weeks. I think it'll take a lot longer. I think it was Mark Douglas who said today we'll probably see a lot of the fallout from this in the coming weeks, and I agree with that. It's usually how it goes. People dig a bit further, find a bit more, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, we will certainly. A lot of people asking whether Richard Keys has said anything. I think he's run out of things to say. I think he'll be sitting there rubbing his hairy hands somewhere, very happy with the way that it's all worked out. Mark Pierce asks a simple one for you, Mitch. Were you surprised that PIF pulled out? Very,
especially given that we three were given reassurances probably not 48 hours earlier that wasn't going to happen. I got my first sense of certainly frustration in the last 2 weeks. Not underconfidence and not negativity, just frustration. I have to say, one comment that one of my guys who works closely with PIF and one of the audit teams that did the Carnival deal for them, he suggested to me, this feels like a decision that somebody high up's just decided, right, I've had enough. Thrown his toys out the cot and said, right, pull it. And to me, there's only one person who can do that in Saudi. But that's totally unsubstantiated, but that's an interesting opinion and an interesting feeling from somebody who has genuinely worked with PIF and some of the other teams on one of the deals. And he was in regular discussions with a number of people connected to it. And they've said all along, no, they're not walking away. They're not walking away. The only comment that was made to me about 7 or 8 weeks ago was they did want to make Ashley suffer. I don't know what that was about. That was obviously something historical early on in the deal. But I don't think that's related to this. I don't think that's related to the fact that it's just absolutely been scuppered.
I think what we've got to look at on this one, Mitch, we've got to look at it and think the Saudis, everyone right here, they would have probably been really confident this was going to go through. We all thought exactly the same for everything which we heard. But they must have had a plan set for the end of the Premier League season this season and what they wanted to do within that short period of time. Maybe it's just came to that date where the Premier League are still dragging the heels and thinking, even if we get this club a week before the start of the season, that could knacker us for the rest of the year.
We've got no time to do anything about it. Yeah. They might have actually set the date as Eid because of the Eid holiday. Because I mean, they're on a proper holiday. I'm just on 4 days. They'll be shut down for the whole rest of next week in Saudi. And the reason I'm sat in Fujairah at the minute is because I've finally got a holiday for the first time in bloody ages, and so I'm away from the coalface, as it were. So, but 4 days, that's it, max. Yeah, whereas Saudi usually take 10.
Yeah, what does that give them? That gives them plenty time to just be sitting there going, sort it out yourselves. Sort it out yourselves.
That's true. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, you're right.
I'll throw this one at you. I mean, something a good friend of ours who's just sent me a message, and just said, ask the lads whether they think the gloating from Qatar or the lack of it tells you that they're still wary and waiting for Eid to finish, especially the lack of gloating from a certain man that we've just been talking about with the hairy hand.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I know we're joining dots on a bit of paper that's got thousands of dots, and we don't know what the picture is really looking like. But there's so much going on behind the scenes. There's so much, and I had this conversation with my brother last night. We talked about it, and the first words he said were, "You know what? This is typical Arab way to go about it. You know what? You say, right, leave it up to you. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to tell you I'm walking away. If you guys really want this deal to happen, Premier League, Newcastle United, PCP, Mike Ashley, you want it to happen, go on.
Sort it out.
You've got 7 days, sort it out, get it done.
Aye, you're right.
And we're not talking about anything other than and there was somebody threw something out the other day, or yesterday, and they said, you know what they've actually accused the PIF of. And I said, you know, it's the equivalent of, in terms of the Premier League, belittling PIF was the equivalent of someone in a foreign country, like for example, I'll throw the example of Donald Trump, right? It's the equivalent of Donald Trump deciding he's going to sue the Queen because the Crown Estate have put some wind turbines on the coastline opposite his golf course, and it makes it look bad. So he's going to sue the Queen because that coastline and that surface is owned by the Queen under the guise of Crown Estates. The Queen doesn't own it. She might get money from it. But it's not. There's an organisation called Crown Estates that run everything on behalf of the Queen that she has nothing to do with. But it's so insulting to try and put the connotation of the ruler and his son in that situation, and then say to the Premier League, you know, do this, do that, prove to me, prove that. That's an insult. And what they did was they insulted him, and they've reached a point where they've gone, stuff you. Okay, right, now sort it out yourselves, because I'm not going to sort this out for you. I still want the football club, and I'm going to go after the football club, but I'm not going to have you little shits doing this on my behalf. I'm saying get it sorted. That's what's going on. It's geopolitics and it's business, and it's honestly, it's far bigger than we imagined 17 weeks ago, isn't it? We didn't. Yeah. There's so much more that we know that's come about in the last 17 weeks that we ever envisaged with regard to the Middle East, with regards to organisations, companies, and the way business is done. It's been an eye-opener for us, and our eyes will still be being opened in 10 years' time, no doubt, when we're still talking about it, and Steve's writing another book.
Obviously, a lot of people, you know, talking about next season. You know, first of all, we've got to get back in the ground. This COVID, we're not really sure where we're going with this, and you know, essentially, we're talking about October, where there's potentially fans going to be allowed back in, but it'll only be a percentage of fans. They've got to work out who they're going to let in first and foremost. We also have a diminishing fan base. 10,000 people didn't renew. You know, the 52,000 crowds were only because Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley gave away 10,000 tickets in January. Dave Smith's asking on a serious note, how will we feel about attending games next season, and when we can, if this is another season under Ashley? Do you think this is going to, you know, this news last night is going to see fans, you know, probably decide, well, enough's enough? People are going to be forced away, Daniel, because, you know, they don't have a job anymore, you know, for starters, and they're struggling to pay for season tickets. But do you think you'll see the fan base diminish even more?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ashley will have to give away a lot more than 10,000 tickets to get them to fill the stadium. I think people are simply fed up, and they are fed up with Ashley, of course, but in terms of the takeover, I don't see that many blaming Ashley for it not happening this time. but we're still stuck with him, and we know what we get with Ashley. So yeah, I think far more people will stay away this time.
Yeah, Chris, same question to you. Do you think this is going to see a further drain on our support next season because of what's happened?
100%, mate. We saw it last season, didn't we? When Rafa left, a massive dip there. Like you said, you went to the 10,000 tickets, which we had to give away. And honestly, I said last night when we were recording that right now and yesterday, that was probably the lowest point for me under Mike Ashley. And the one time, it's not even his fault. It's because we had literally been handed the lottery ticket. We had been handed it and saying, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And the last minute, just before those numbers come out, they've took that lottery ticket away from you. And we've alerted this before, when we've all had concerns, if it wasn't going to get the go-ahead, that where will we be next season if it's Mike Ashley in charge? And it kills us to say it. But right now, this is the point where I'm seriously considering just turning me back on it, because I spend too much money, mate, home and away, far too much money, far too much time, just to get nothing back from the club. And it's infuriating, and there's loads of people in the same boat as me. So you'll be lucky if you're hitting 30, 25,000 next season.
It's awful to hear that, but it's understandable. And, the ground, the atmosphere, we had Mark Corby on at the top of the programme. You go back to some of his videos, and the ground might have been less of an attendance when we were younger, but the atmosphere was hostile. It won matches with 12 man. Football's changed. All City stadiums have changed it, but it's not the same. And apathy surround is in St James's Park now. It's not good. Before we bring the birthday girl on, I just want to finally give Chris and Daniel, before they leave us tonight, a chance to just to promote what they do. And Daniel, I'll start with you. As I said, I've started following you guys, and that it's been a massive help, I think, for a lot of people who just wouldn't even know where to look. Sometimes it's a bit confusing. I will be honest. That's what I said to you, because sometimes people take it as fact, but that's because not everyone reads articles, they just read headlines. But tell us a little bit about NUFC 360. Where people can find you, and just give it a little bit of a promo, mate.
Yep, thanks. Twitter is where we started. We have above 50,000 followers at this point after 5 years of doing it. What we basically do is relay news. Sometimes we have opinions of it. Sometimes we do some sort of match commentary, although this season we've stopped having a running commentary on matches due to Mike Ashley still being at the club as some sort of a protest. We also have the same site on Facebook and recently on Instagram as well. So if you want to read news, we're the ones that relay it for you.
Good stuff, mate. And as you see, you can find them on Twitter mainly. Well worth a visit, and you can catch them on there. Chris Wallace, of course, most of you will know from the AWS podcast and a Gallagher Shots. Fantastic channel, great. I followed that from day one. Well worth a watch. Always got some great stuff on there. They were the ones who introduced Red Rose Michelle, of course, and brought her into the limelight a little bit over this period. And well worth a watch. Give them a subscribe on YouTube, etc. But just tell us a little bit about it, Chris. I know you're feeling a bit down in the minute, mate, but tell us a little bit about the channel and give yourself a plug, mate.
I'm feeling down, mate. Our podcast is called the Always Smiling Faces Podcast. You should have saw it last night. Jesus Christ. Mate, I've got nothing to say about Gallagher Shots. People know where we are. Most people watching this will have links there, mate. But this is a guy up here, so Steve, just look out for the food bank. They need things a lot more than what we need them right now. So every bit of attention goes to the food bank from me.
Yeah, great stuff. And of course,
thanks, guys.
Cheers, Chris. You're the best trolley pushers in town.
Some of them, mate. Some of them don't push that trolley. Some of them are happy to carry the flag. I'll tell you that.
Bestie, I'm not saying out about Bestie. He's a good lad.
It's Decker. I'll tell you, it's Decker right now.
Right, I'll remember that.
Look, I'm sure we'll get you back on. We're going to keep this going as well. I think it's great that you've come on tonight, lads, and I think it just shows that unity is strength. We should all be backing each other up and supporting each other. We might not always agree on certain issues, but I think the more that we all help each other out and we go onto each other's podcasts or we help retweet each other's stuff, I think we can all share the same goal. We also Newcastle, but we also can help people like the food bank as well. Which Steve, Mitch, and Colin have done so much work for over the years. But thanks for coming on. I'm sure we'll get you back on again.
Thank you.
It's all about positive engagement, isn't it? Thanks, lads.
Great to meet you, Daniel. All the best. Good luck. Keep going, Dan.
See you later, lads. Be kind. That's my message. Be kind.
Good stuff, Chris. Thanks, mate.
See you later.
Right, lads. A big thank you to Chris and Daniel, and of course Mark Corby for coming on. Been absolutely great to have those lads on. And I know a lot of people saying don't change the format, but it's nice to get different people on. Now, I hope you've got your singing voices ready, lads. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
To you.
Thank you.
We can't give you the bump, Sav, but
You could form a band.
Madness, aye.
The damned.
It's
You'd
definitely
be like a new Busted.
Right, aye. We're all busted already, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's definitely the oldest swingers in town. Sav, welcome, and I hope you're not drinking because you're back on again. First of all, well done on your real debut on your show with the girls, and I thought it was fantastic. It got some great viewing figures. Everybody loved it. But just tell us a little bit about how you spent your birthday. Have you managed to get out and about, or have you been confined, or have you been at work?
No, I've had one of those sort of self-care days. I mean, in lockdown, I haven't put on a fake tan, but still I've had about 5 layers of it, so I'm a true orange now. And, I dyed my hair. That's about it.
True orange.
I can imagine because of the news we got last night that you're probably going to drink most of that vodka tonight. But
yeah.
What's your take on developments over the last 24 hours?
Do you know what? And I hate to say it, but I wasn't shocked. There has been so much silence and so many conflicting reports. There was nothing concrete ever said. And, it made me really sad, but I wasn't surprised when I saw it come up.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and the fact that it's gone on for 17 weeks now, and we've now reached this potential end game. Did you see the statement that was put out this morning by Lee Charnley on behalf of Mike Ashley? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. It did make me laugh going on Twitter, and everyone's like, "Oh, we've got to help Mike," and I was like, "Wow, 2020 has got weird."
And obviously the other thing we've talked about tonight briefly is potential transfer targets. Ryan Fraser has been the one which essentially has been linked with the club, certainly over the last couple of years. But it looks as if it's getting a step closer. Would you be happy with that player coming in?
What's that? Sorry.
Ryan Fraser. What's your views on that potentially coming in Newcastle player?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't know. Do you know what? We had all this with these big names being thrown about, and and suddenly it's like back to the bargain basement budget, and I don't know.
Yeah, it is a struggle. Unfortunately, we've got.
It's been looking at both ends, and I find that really difficult because you're trying to concentrate on the squad that's already there, and then you get all these high-end names being thrown about, and you think, brilliant, that would be great, and then suddenly it's like, actually, that's gone. Scratch that. Now you've got to look at these ones, and it's just.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, I'm going to come back to you now, mate, and just following up on the questions that I was talking to Chris and Daniel about a little bit earlier there before they went off. Just the fan situation. We've talked on this show before about when the fans are going to come back in and how many are going to be allowed back in. But let's fast forward and say that we're back now to having 52,000 being allowed to the game. You know, how badly is this going to affect, you know, the attendance at the game? Do you think more people will vote with their feet?
I think they will. I honestly think they will. If the takeover hasn't happened, and if COVID's sorted out, I think you will see a massive decline in the attendance at St James's Park, because I think the whole period of the lockdown is making people reassess their whole life, their whole way of doing things, their whole family approach, etc. I think if lockdown has taught us anything, it's how valuable it is to be around the people that you enjoy being around with, and how you suddenly start to appreciate your family, and you start to appreciate your friends, and you want to spend a little bit more time with them if you possibly can. If Project Restart's shown that the football has been shocking without fans, it really has. I don't think I've watched a decent game yet. Certainly not involving Newcastle United. I could probably could I say that the Sheffield United game was a good game? It wasn't a good game. It was a good result, you know, against 10 men. It was a good result. We were actually gonna talk about the review of the season, weren't we? You know,
yeah.
But it wasn't exactly the most enthralling performance, and without the crowd, it was nothing. I personally don't think that, well, given the fact that the government's announced today that their little sort of trial efforts that they're making to get fans into sporting events has now been put back on the back burner, I think you know what, October's looking way a long way off, and I think we're talking at the earliest January, and quite possibly a full season without fans.
Yeah.
I honestly think that probably the latter rather than the former.
Mitch, can I put this one to you that Lee Smith put on there?
Yeah.
What do you guys make of Simon Jordan's comments regarding PIF potentially dropping their stake just below 75% so they would go through a different test? Is that something they could look at?
Well, we've discussed away from here, shall we say, what options they would have to dilute Saudi influence a little bit, and there most certainly are. Would that change the test? Simon Jordan, I would hope, would know a little bit more about that. For all I don't agree with everything he says, and certainly, as you guys know, I've got an issue with that gentleman because of the way he treated an individual who I class as a friend of mine. But that's another matter. If going to under a 75% stake changes the game, there surely has to be a way to construct that, and that doesn't mean. I saw his example of putting the Rubens and PCP up a little. He could introduce somebody else to the game, and if you just introduce somebody else to the game, it's already okay. It's a three-headed beast. You turn it into a four-headed beast. So what? Particularly if it's a beast who's friendly to Saudi, and then you probably have the perfect storm. Then, if that changes the nature of the test and changes the way that they look at it, and takes away this seeming loggerhead whereby we've got to where the Premier League are going to say, well, we're not going to pass you, but we're not going to fail you. We're just going to sit here and stare at each other over a table for infinity. If moving to a different test changes that ability, and if the people you bring in are allies to the cause in every way, shape and form, then surely it's something that has to be explored. And as I say, of all the people who should know it as a former owner of a football club, I would have thought Simon Jordan would have a handle on that. It's certainly nothing that I've ever discussed or has come up in discussions that we've had. But then again, we've never been talking about a situation like this before with a consortium. We've only ever discussed people doing it individually and on their own. Correct, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Jordan's getting at is the fact that you own less than 75% of a company, and so he's looking at company law. But if you brought somebody else in, the question is, would you have to go through the owners and directors test again because you introduced a new partner? And that was something that was thrown at us last night, wasn't it, Mitch? Which was basically from all the word that we were getting was that they don't need to go through the owners and directors tests again. But that was more to do with the dissolving, but keeping the grouping together. If they incorporate somebody else, then potentially, yes, they would have to. But then again, it would depend on how much that new person or new organization or new group or new corporation was actually going to be holding. Now, this is where we'll probably need Red Rose Michelle to come and tell us a little bit about company law and a little bit about stuff that's way beyond our sort of level of expertise. And let's face it, our level of expertise revolves around what we read on the back pages of a newspaper more than anything. But that was the crux of what we were talking about last night, Mitch, wasn't it?
Aye, absolutely. That is absolutely the crux of it, and how could that be reconstructed, reevaluated, and how would you present that to the Premier League?
Yeah, exactly. David Smith's asking if there's a quick restructure, would we be looking at Christmas time for it to go through? So would it be a case of struggling in the Premier League until Christmas? Just curious, or would it be quicker?
Steve, I can't see any deal going through before Christmas right now.
Yeah, well, I've got to be honest. I'm getting asked a lot of questions here as to whether I've spoken to Amanda or PCP. Yes, I have. Have I got anything different than George Colton? No. George Colton's nailed it all in his article. Well, yes, I have. And you know, from her perspective, you know, it's just a case of sitting and waiting now. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think George Colton's article was to the point, and her and me, Dad, got everything out wanted to get out. Will we hear from them again? No, I doubt it very much. Unless something changes. And I think it's down to Mike Ashley now to take the argument to the Premier League. I think the supporters can do that bit by signing the petition, which I've put out on Twitter and put out on Facebook. And I also feel a letter to the Premier League, a civil, polite letter to the Premier League, expressing your need and want for a Saudi takeover wouldn't go amiss. So that as many people can take that time to write an email, write a letter, or sign the petition, it would be a big help. I think the petition getting to 100,000 over the next few days would be massive, and I think it would certainly fit in the public spotlight for the right reasons. But as I said, do I believe that you know, last from Amanda we have if Mike Ashley doesn't start pushing a few buttons, because he's got legs to stand on. You know, they've pulled out, and you know, they've pulled out for a reason. Ultimately, I think Mitch is right. I don't think we'll have a takeover. Certainly not by Christmas. There's no chance of that. I'd be very surprised if this goes. I'd really be surprised if this goes through now. But you never say never, as Mike Ashley and Lee Charney have alluded to today.
What I would add to that, Steve, was the fact that there are other people that should be held accountable for their lack of interest in this takeover in the Northeast. Those people include the Chief Executive of Newcastle Council, the leader of Newcastle Council, the Northeast Development Corporation, because all of these people, and also the regional mayor, because all of these people have been shouting for years about the need for inward development in the region, for investment in the region. And they had handed to them on a plate the possibility, and well, actually more than a possibility, the likelihood of some amazing development that could have moved our city and our region forward for the next 30, 40, 50, 100 years. We could have brought jobs. There could be jobs coming to them. There could be jobs for our kids. There could be jobs for our kids' kids. Because what comes with an organization like PIF is a long-term investment in the Northeast. And we're not talking about an investment for 3 years and then bailing out. We're talking about a long-term investment. And I've had this conversation with someone today, and they are flabbergasted at the lack of any comment whatsoever from the leader of Newcastle City Council, from the regional mayor, who was happy when he was trying to become mayor to stand outside St James's Park alongside the food bank and make out that he was a man of the people, and then disappeared, but is picking up a decent wage. The same with the leader of the county council, who's picking up a 120,000, 130,000 pound a year salary. That's the chief executive. The corporations, the NECs, the regional development corporations. What are they missing? What can they not see that would have brought? Now we can talk about all the politics, and we can talk about all the geopolitics, and we can worry about what Saudi has been like in the past, or what certain individuals in Saudi are like. But we have to get to the nub of this. We have to get to the nub of what the Northeast needs. The Northeast is the most deprived area in the country. It has been for years and years and years. We've been left to our own devices. We had an opportunity for a massive, massive investment that revolved around our football club, but was going to be much, much more. And not a single one of them has uttered a single word. And it's shame on them.
Steve, though, however, in all the times of things we've done, go back to NUSC, NUST, and coming forward, Gagliardi's twice, BZG, and others, we've come across this time and time again, that when it comes to dealing with them in local authority, in politics, all they're interested in is, what do I get out of it? They don't see the bigger picture. They can't see the bigger picture. We presented Newcastle and Gateshead Council along with a bid for Newcastle United in 2014, with development of 3 brownfield sites on both sides of the River Tyne, and the two councils couldn't even bloody agree at all with each other, let alone the bidders.
And do you remember that statement? Do you remember that statement that came out when Gateshead Council, when they turned around and goes, you know what, we would rather leave that for another 25 years as derelict land than put something up that we don't want. Not that the people don't want or the people need, but what we don't want, because it didn't
suit them.
Equation. You know what? I'm not having a go at Ian Menz, and I'm not having a go at Chian Wura or any of our political politicians that are from Westminster, because that's a totally different ball game. Westminster is not the people that run the Northeast. The Northeast is run by the councils. North Tyneside, South Tyneside, Gateshead, Newcastle. The things that they would get from having PIF, PCP, and the Reuben brothers putting developments in. And you know what? They're sitting there dumb. Absolutely dumb. Those people need to be taken into account. And I would say to Newcastle United fans, while you're sending your emails, right? While you're sending your emails to the Premier League, also send some emails to Newcastle Civic Centre, to Gateshead Civic Centre, to South Tyneside Civic Centre, to North Tyne Civic Centre. Send them to them and get them and shake your local council up and find out what they're doing. That for me is the nub of everything that's wrong with the Northeast and everything that Newcastle fans have been crying out for years. And remember also, what have we got? We've got a council that in 1964, 1965, we didn't even get a World Cup game in Newcastle, and it went to Middlesbrough because the council wouldn't back the football club to put some decent seats in the ground that would have benefited them. And the club tried. Maybe they didn't try enough, but the council couldn't give a monkeys. And we've been like that for years and years and years. And it's time these people in authority were held to account.
Look at contrasted further, Steve, with that thing that we took to Durham about the Riverside. Yeah. Do you remember?
I remember it well.
Absolutely, and how keen with Durham. Durham couldn't say yes to that quick enough.
Yeah.
And then the ACB pulled the rug from under Durham, but that's another matter. And that was from this region. That was from Dubai. They were going to turn Durham bloody cricket ground into something spectacular.
Yeah.
And they saw it and they saw, bloody hell, this is what we want. And dealing with them was a totally, totally different thing to dealing with the councils either side of the River Tyne in Newcastle and Gateshead.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Neil.
Sav, got to bring you in now as you're pouring a drink and your dog's making a in the background. I mean, all we really want is a successful football team. It's not that much to ask, but Steve's really gone on there about the politics side of it, and expecting to see some kind of reaction. Has it surprised you that that we seem to have been rather than supported by journalists and politicians, a lot of them just seem to have turned on us during this period?
I think the problem that has been is there is a massive lack of communication to the fans. There's literally nothing. So the journalists start to make up their story for a few clicks, and everyone jumps on that bandwagon, and that's where we're left. I mean, I don't know a lot about the politics side of it, but I just have found that the whole time there's been no word to the fans, no update. A few people have said they don't need, it's all confidential, you can't be given an update. But, it was going back to that mental health thing. Is it fair to leave people hanging for 17 weeks? Yeah,
it's not, is it? I mean, no. It's been an absolute nightmare from start to finish. And I mean, we've all tried to keep people's spirits up, and it's nice to see the reaction tonight. People feel our passion, whether it's you, Sav, or Steve, or me, or Mitch. They like to hear us speak and talk about it. And we've got a lot of intelligent supporters in the fan base. We've seen a couple more on tonight. We're three of the lads on tonight. All got big social media followings for different reasons. And 20,000 signatures have now been put onto that petition. It's still a long way off the 100,000, but that's not bad for less than 12 hours. So hopefully that can continue. Another thing, Sav, obviously I know you live down in Norfolk, but the crowds story that we've talked about tonight. Do you expect more people to walk away next season? Do you think a lot of people will walk away from Newcastle?
From what I've seen on Twitter, I mean, obviously there's no one around here I really know that supports Newcastle, but from what I've seen on Twitter today and yesterday, it looks like it. I mean, I'm in that mentality where it's for better or for worse, and you've got to stick in there through the bad bits because, one day his reign will end over Newcastle. He's not got an infinite life. He's made it clear he wants sold to the club, so it's not going to last forever. And I think that, it's like you said today on Twitter, the fans have got to be united in, supporting each other, not tearing each other apart and walking away from the club, all this that's going on that I've been seeing. I think, you've got to stay united. He's not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Better days are coming.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope you're right. Got another fan who wants to join us tonight. He's called Dan Fox. Good evening, Dan.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Hi, Dan. You all right?
All right, Dan.
Yeah, all right, mate.
Very good, mate. What's your views on what's happened over the last 24 hours, mate?
It's been crippling to me as a fan that suffers with mental health. And I'm sure there's many others as well that felt the effects of the last 17 weeks, waking up every 20 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, searching Twitter for more news. Yourself, Steve, Mitch, I've relied on news for information rather than anyone else. It's been disheartening, and it's been hard to read. I wouldn't even say it's been 13 years of hurt under Ashley, because for the first year or two, I didn't really feel it. I thought we're possibly a club in transition. It was from then it started to go downhill, and rather than be me release for me depression and stuff like that, it started to become an effect. It started to affect it more than help it, and it's really hurt us as a fan to see that possibly we're not going to get the takeover that we so desperately need.
Yeah, I mean, the mental health issue is something which, for a couple of weeks I've really tried to push, and I mean I've done a couple of podcasts for people who wanted us to do them, about mental health. It's something that I think we all suffer. Sometimes you don't realise you're actually going through it until it hits you really hard. I think social media can affect us all as well. Like you've already said, it's affected you with the takeover, but like stuff that we've all been going through over the last 24 hours. I know Mitch has had a bit of stick. I had a bit of stick. I chose to go out and do a video. I'm used to this now. I don't care what people think about me. it's why I reached out to Sav during the takeover, because I thought that she was going through it, and she's been a big asset to what we do, and I think it's important to have her on the show on a weekly basis to come and give her opinion, and we've all been through it, and I think you, Dan, you're suffering from the other side of it. You're somebody who's a fan. You're clearly a fan. You're an articulate lad, but you've got mental health issues, and fair play to you. You've took that step to come and speak about it. We've got over 600 people watching now. We have usually around about 5,000 people watching, and the support that's coming in for you, Dan. I mean, I'll share a few things. Nettle Warrior, very brave man, coming on and talking about your mental health. Fire Felicity and fair play for speaking out, Dan. We're all here for you. Mark Valentine, good pal of mine, says, good on you, Dan. We've all been there, son. Keep it hard. So, I mean, a lot of support coming in for you, mate. I think the Premier League take a little bit of responsibility here, don't they, Dan, for the length of time they've allowed this to drag on?
I think before we started, Steve, there was one thing I wanted to pick up on, and to be honest with you, I couldn't help but laugh, but also feel angered, was when they came out with a post a couple of days ago saying that they're united with the mental health team. I mean, that was an absolute shock to the Newcastle fans. I mean, they're coming out and saying we're united in supporting mental health and stuff like that. Where was your help and support when we've been going through this for 17 weeks and you haven't give a crap, to be honest with you? I'm pretty sure there's many fans that's listening to this show now that understand where I'm coming from. And I mean, there was another post I put out. Was it yesterday? And I'm just like, I was in total disbelief that they've got people there that don't hold themselves to account to basically demoralising us as a club. We're a member club, and they need to remember that we're a huge club. Regardless of what anyone says, them doing the road can say what they want. We are a big club, and we're the biggest in the North East, and they need to remember that. And if we were to drop out this league and do a Sunderland, I'll tell you what, it would hit them drastically. So for me, it's been a hard one to watch, especially considering I'd watched the podcast on Wednesday when we were here and they would never back out, and then with Alwa Weed, and then to hear that they dropped out from 24 hours later, it hit us hard. However, it's given us a little bit of hope hearing that over the last few posts you've done, Steve and Mitch, that maybe the deal isn't necessarily dead. There is something there that we can maybe do to resurrect this. And I heard Simon Jordan saying the day on TalkSport. I didn't really pay much attention to him because to me, he's an arse and he doesn't like the town. However, he said the day someone around the regards of if it was less than 75% that the PIP had involved, the deal might have been passed because it's a different threshold of the owners and directors test. It was an interesting read, so I don't know if you've seen it. And that would give Stavely 13% and the Reuben brothers 13%. Yeah. And it would be a different type of test going on. So, I mean, mental health-wise, mate, like I said, it was a release at this, for me for many years. Now it's become part of the illness.
Yeah, it's horrendous to hear that. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that you chose to come on tonight. And a lot of people saying want to give you support. Daniel's on Twitter at NEFoxy91. So I'm sure that if you want to give him a follow and you feel like doing that, he's a Newcastle fan, and you say, well, we are all in this together. And that's the way it should be. We should be more united. We've got united by name. We should be more united. And that's a message I know that Steve, you've tried to push for many, many years now. And me, you, Neil, and others, Colin Whittle, and Brian Williams, God bless him. There's so many supporters over the years that tried to pull people together. But unfortunately, through various reasons, a lot of the fan base has been pushed apart. But somebody like Dan's come on tonight, and it just shows, that social media can be a nasty place, but it can also be a nice supportive place as well,
Absolutely. I mean, we're all wired differently. We all have our own emotions. We all have our own problems at home. We all have our own problems at work if we're working. But at the end of the day, we're all black and white. We're all Newcastle fans, and we should be supporting each other. And we should. And I got quite dismayed when I put the tweet out about how this was affecting people. The fact that the Premier League had taken so long, and I got responses. I got private messages. I also got the usual sort of Twitterati who were, if you think this has helped you affecting your mental health, then you've got another thing coming. You want to grow some, all this type of thing. I wasn't talking about my mental health. I was talking about our mental health, our fan base's mental health, our friends, our fellow supporters, and how people that we don't even know, but we know it's affecting them. And lads like Dan, they're the salt of the earth. These are lads who put their heart and soul into supporting this football club. They travel abroad, they travel at home, they go away. Some of them do. Some of them might not be able to. But at the end of the day, Dan's sitting there with his black and white shirt on and his hat on, and he's a black and white through and through Newcastle United supporter. And he deserves the respect, absolute and complete and utter respect from every single other Newcastle fan. And if Dan's going through a problem, we're there to support him. And we should all be there to support him in the same way as Dan would support anyone else who was going through this. And I hold my hand up and say, Dan, you're one of the bravest people that I've come across who has had the guts to come on here in front of people online and talk about yourself and talk about your problems and share them with us. And that's the key. You're sharing them with us because we're part of you, mate.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Steve. I mean, I was going to say, anyone that wants to reach out who's feeling the way I am, Steve Wraith mentioned before, Twitter handle FoxyNE91, get in touch. I'm there for you, we can talk general chit-chat about football. It can be about other aspects that's affecting you. I've been through it all, and like I say, it's been good to come on and just being able to open up as a genuine supporter of the club who's seen it all from being a young lad. I mean, I'm 29 this month, next month, August. And I've had 29 years of ups and downs, and Sav, I'd just like to say now, I follow you as well, and I've seen some of the crap that you get. It's just, it's unbelievable what some fans can do when they're feeling disheartened about the club. So I can only apologise on behalf of them, but it's just, it's not on, and I'm here, and Mitch and Steve are getting crap as well, and it's not on as a fan base. So if you're feeling like you need a vent, come to me. We'll have a bit crack on. We'll talk some common sense and talk about football, and go for you to stop you, getting in touch with people like Steve, Mitch, and Sav, and vent the anger out on them,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Well said.
You've been through it, Sav, as well, haven't you? You've had a bit of stick, and it's not nice at all when it happens. So, I think you've learned a lot, haven't you, through this process?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Monday, I had a really bad day. I couldn't even turn Twitter on, to be honest. I just had been put through the ringer over the weekend. I thought, you know what, you've got to go on, and I had to research these people and block, whoever was involved in these conversations, just because I don't, I know a lot of people don't, and then they engage in arguments, but I hate that sort of negativity. I don't have the energy for it. I just want to press the block button. I don't want to read it, and, I want to move on from it.
Yeah, good stuff. Great stuff. I hope you'll hang around.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here as a healthcare professional with a big glass of wine and a cigar in my hand, obviously. In answer to the question in German before, ich habe ein ganze Flasche getrunken zum Wohl.
That means he's just had a kebab for his tea, by the way.
Anyway, as blokes and working with people in healthcare, blokes are notoriously bad at talking about healthcare and talking about problems, every problem, whether it's a dental problem, whether it's a mental problem, whether it's other problems. We're notoriously bad at doing it. And why we've got somebody like Sav on, women tend to be better at opening up and talking to friends and family about healthcare issues. And as blokes, we don't. And you've got to drop that. It's false masculinity. It doesn't help you. It doesn't serve you. It's not that long ago we lost somebody in Gary Speed who must have been torn up inside, absolutely torn up inside and dealing with demons. And that ended in a way that nobody could have predicted, and so sad. And as blokes, we've got to open up more, and we've got to not got to be frightened to reach out to people, to friends, to other supporters. I've said to people, my DMs are always open. I mean, at the minute, my DMs are full of shite, but that doesn't matter. At the minute, you know, I've been called worse by better people. I cut my internet teeth on a place called Skunkers, which was a bear pit, and it served as well. Funny enough, you mentioned Mark Valentine. He was on Skunkers as well, and I know Mark quite well, and he's a good lad. And so, as blokes, don't be frightened to reach out. Don't be frightened to say, "Hey, I'm struggling here," because you've got to. And there's people there who will listen. There's lots of people there who will listen. And Newcastle United supporting community is there for everybody, or it should be. And the good ones are. It's as simple as that.
You're quite right, Mitch. And the other important thing to remember is that within the football club, within the NUFC Foundation, the Be a Game Changer program that they put in place is absolutely amazing. And the support you will get. So if you're struggling, and you feel as though you need some support and you need to talk, the Be a Game Changer program is the one that you need to hook into, because you're going to be talking to fellow fans who have gone through situations or are going through situations and will be there to listen and to support you and to help you. And I was on the 12-man program, which was more to do with a physical aspect and how you could make yourself fit and you could feel better with yourself. And Bill Corcoran was on it with me as well. He joined the second tranche. And the lads still keep in touch now, and it's been sort of 2.5, 3 years. And the people who are running those programs, who have then moved forward and developed into the Be a Game Changer, it's vital that you know that these people, that there are organizations and groups. And if you want to talk, and you want to talk football, or you want to be linked to football, or you feel as though football would help you, the Be a Game Changer program at NUFC Foundation is the place to go and get that help. Absolutely 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
Fair play, Steve. Well done, man.
Yeah, well said. Got to come to this one, lads and lasses. Danny Brown, what do you think about the Newcastle United Supporters Trust letter to the Premier League? I've got to be honest, I haven't had time to read it. I know you guys have. Steve, I'll come to you on this one. You know, what's in the letter, basically, and what have they said?
That for me?
Yes, please.
They went in the very, very legalist terms of what they in issues that they thought that the Premier League was needed to expose and to work through. Whether it became too complex and whether they went too far, I'm not too sure. That would be a matter of opinion for any individual who was reading it. I probably would say the most important thing is that they put something out there. They did take the time. They did get legal advice. They did get legal counsel who drafted them something that they wanted to pin a number of issues, a number of areas onto. It's just a pity that they hadn't published it and hadn't let us know what they were doing. And perhaps that was to do with confidentiality. I don't know. At the same time, it would be interesting to see the response they got from the Premier League in terms of how the Premier League replied to them, and whether they covered every point, whether they avoided.
They didn't, Steve. I've seen the reply.
Yeah, and what was your opinion, Neil?
I don't know why look at the letter to the Premier League. I think was fantastic. It was well put together. You know, from a legal point of view, I don't think you could fault it. The reply was the same straight bat answer that everybody else got. So I don't know why there was the big hoo-ha about we've got a reply, but we're not going to tell you what it is. Which is sad, because actually, if they'd shared what they'd sent and then shared the reply, that would have made the Premier League look bloody stupid.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, that letter is a fabulous letter. I won't fault it. Won't fault it at all. It's legally very well constructed, but then again, it should be. It's been done by somebody who's very well qualified. But then the replies come back, which was a rubbish reply. Let's be honest with it. It was rubbish. It didn't address anything in the letter. I would have just put that straight out. Now, I'm a different beast. When I was chair of the trust, everything was quite different. It's moved on a lot since I was involved with the trust. And I'm not going to sit and criticise anybody. They've done what they felt was right, and so for their members, and that's who they represent, and that's what it's about. I'm not a member anymore, even, so I'm really outside the tent peeing in. So is it fair of me to make that much of a comment? But in my opinion, if they put that letter out and then put that reply out, the Premier League would have looked bloody stupid, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of positive comments coming in for you, Dan. Dan, well done for opening up. I felt really down since the news broke. Not really spoke to anybody, getting annoyed with everybody around me, which is, that just really encapsulates a lot of the messages that are coming in. Just give a shout out for your Twitter again, mate, because people are asking if they can find you on Twitter or Facebook. David Harrison's one of them. Can you give your Twitter name again, please? Because I've struggled for 5 years. So if you can just do that again, mate, because I think you're going to get inundated with a few inboxes.
Yeah, like I see, my inbox is always open. You can tweet us, but then maybe still group chats. Get a few of you in together, and we'll have a big crack on, just to try and calm some of the animosity that's going on at the minute. It's Foxy NE91, FOXY NE, as in Newcastle, postcode 91. Forgive us if I'm wrong, because I'm pretty sure it's that, Stephen. I'm pretty sure you shouted it out at the start, so if I'm wrong, I apologise, but I'm pretty sure it's Foxy NE91. That's my Twitter handle, and you can come at us with any type of questions. You can come at us with any type of upset, anger that you're feeling. I'll speak to you. I'll try and reassure you. I'm just there with open ears to have a big crack on with you, and as a fan, we can hopefully talk something that we've both got a comparison in, which is Newcastle United Football Club.
Yeah, John was asking whether NUFC 360 is on there. You missed him; he was on earlier, so you'll have to go back to find out. Malcolm says, "Fantastic and thought-provoking show. Thanks to all tonight." Gary Phillipson says, "Great crack. People do not realise how much this affects us. I've been in a total downer. One day it'll happen." A lot of people very positive having you on, Sav, as well. A lot of people want to know how you're going to go out. How are you going to enjoy your birthday tonight? Are you going to manage to get out of the house? Or are you
No, I think, I'm in my 30s now. I'll probably collapse by 9 o'clock in bed and then wake up tomorrow a bit disoriented.
Don't say that, Sav. I'm nearly 30 myself, so,
Do I follow you, Dan?
I
don't know if you follow me, but I follow you, so we'll double check that at the end.
Yeah.
If I don't, just drop me a message and I'll speak to you.
No bother, Sav. No problem.
A lot of people asking if Mitch has been taken out. Well, he's dropped out of the broadcast. I'm going to try and...
He smoked too much.
Yeah.
I'll have cigars he's having.
He's lived out the boat.
He's dropped out of the broadcast. So just really the last 15 minutes of the show, we want to we essentially just want to look at where we go from here. Steve, let's start with you. Where do we go from here, do you think, genuinely, with the Newcastle United takeover? In your mind, do you think we've got a hope of this potentially being resurrected and going through? Let's finish off on that today.
I mean, you guys were talking about Christmas. I would not be surprised if within the next fortnight it was done and dusted, to be perfectly honest. I would not be surprised because I know that Mike Ashley, as I said right at the very beginning, Mike Ashley will have his Rottweilers tearing bits out of the Premier League, and I would not be surprised if it was sorted within the next 2 or 3 weeks. It wouldn't come as a surprise to me, to be perfectly honest. I know where you lads are coming from in terms of the Christmas and moving on, and that's where it to be. I've got no inside knowledge. I'm not coming from because I've spoken to Mike Ashley, or I've spoken to some lawyer company, or I've spoken to Amanda Stavely, or anybody else. It's just a gut feeling that I have that now that Ashley's in control, I feel as though he's gonna go balls out, and if it ends up that he cannot get what he wants, woe betide everybody else. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Mitch, next, for you, what do you think is going to happen? In your heart of hearts, what do you think is going to happen?
I think it depends on the events of the next 2 weeks are critical, as Steve says. It depends on what angle Mike Ashley and his lawyers want to take at it. It depends on how. I mean, obviously, PCP they've said we need the fans' help in this one. So that would suggest to me they're not going to do much other than sit on it and let the pressure build. And where that pressure goes, who knows? Will we get something from the Premier League? I doubt it, because I'm sorry, the phrase I was criticised for using a long time ago, that Masters was bricking it about having to make a decision. I think that's been very clear. He's bricked it all along and he's bottled it at the end. This Mexican standoff about, well, we want you to do this, but you want you to do this. That's rubbish. Personally, from discussions I've had today, 2 or 3 people have told me they don't see anything coming to fruition until Christmas, just so people know the lay of the land after halfway through the season, so they know what they're actually buying. Which I kind of get, because as we've said many times before, the post-COVID football world is going to be a very different landscape. And now it looks like fans may not be back in stadiums possibly for the entire season. There's a pressure on income that nobody was expecting this for the second season. I think everybody thought everything would be sorted and would be back to some sort of vague normal by Christmas. Doesn't look like it, does it? So if there's anybody coming in outside of PCP/PIF, they may be coming at it from a totally different angle. And how receptive to that will Mr. Ashley be? Mr. Ashley is a willing seller at the price he has currently agreed with PIF/PCP, and that's why he wants to resurrect it. So sure as eggs is eggs, he's going to be pushing hard to get that done. I think as a fan base, all we can do is sign the petitions, keep the pressure on the way we are, do what we've been asked to do. I wish we'd been given something to fight with 2 weeks ago instead of being sent in against the tank with a bloody pea shooter. But that's just a personal opinion. That's me being a bit pissed and angry about it. But where we are now, I think it's time to take stock and see how developments run in the next 10 days.
Sav, same question to you. What do you think the future holds for the takeover?
Do you know what? I think it's totally dependent whether sort of the Saudis get back on board, or if it's a different buyer, then they've got to go through the owners and directors test again, haven't they? Yeah. So that's back from the beginning. I really don't know. I totally agree. See what the next 10 days holds, because who knows?
Yeah. Hit like, guys, please hit the thumb and give it a share so people can catch up with this. A lot of people saying they've enjoyed it. Dan, what's your views on the takeover? Is it dead in the water, or do you think there's still that a small chink of light in that they could resurrect it?
Personally, I don't think the Saudis will walk away. I think it's been a sort of a smokescreen to say, yeah, if you don't, then you aren't going to get the investment in the league. And I think that's something that the Premier League are crying out for. It's just, again, I'll go back to the disillusion and the whole post that they put on about mental health. They've just shot the fans in the foot and just said, look, we don't care about yous. We're going to put this out anyway. Whoever's the PR person for the Premier League, I mean, they need a good talking to, because that was a bad time to publish something like that. Also, I'll just go back. I think I put my Twitter handle out wrong. It's NEFoxy91, because someone was asking earlier. It's NEFoxy91. But again, back to the question, I don't think it's dead in the water. I think that there might be something, but like Mitch said, I think the next 10 to 14 days is going to be crucial. And if we don't hear anything by then it could be a long time in the wait, and we could be stuck with Ashley for the next year or two, at least. Yeah,
I agree. My view is, that PCP I've done everything that they can. A lot of people ask me what they think it's a PR stunt. I just think it's a bit of brinkmanship. That's what it's called in business terms. I think it's an attempt now to essentially say, right, that's it, we're pulling out, and that's it. And now it's on Ashley's tours. Ashley wants to sell the club, which is what we all wanted. And essentially now we're in a position where he has to turn the thumb screws on the Premier League. You know, he has to say to Richard Masters, I'm trying to sell this club, and you're stopping me doing that. We need to find a way to get this deal through. So I agree with most of you. I think there's still a chink of light. You know, we don't want to be accused of giving false hope. I just think, genuinely speaking, I just genuinely think that if this doesn't go through, we are in a desperate position as a football club.
Couldn't agree more, Steve. And we're in a desperate position because of the intransigence and the inability of the Premier League to make a decision. That's why we're in this situation. And it all boils down to the Premier League. Richard Masters has had 17 weeks. He's asked question after question after question of PCP and PIF. He's had the answers and he's still not happy. What more does he want? What more do the Premier League want? Who's pulling his strings? Let's ask the question, who's pulling his strings? Is it other football clubs? Is it football clubs in the top 6 who are worried about their own position? And is that right?
Not even in the top 6. Not even in the top 6, so Steve. We were told early on there were 6 clubs lining up objections.
Yeah.
And Everton, West Ham were in there as well.
Yeah. And now we hear the name Wolves. Now we hear the name Tottenham.
Yep.
Now we hear the name Liverpool. Interestingly, we're not hearing the word Man City because they couldn't give a monkey's chuff. You know, perhaps I don't know, but
makes you think how much like input these clubs have, doesn't it? When you hear about these 6 teams coming in, Mitch, like you say, it makes you think, you know, like what's going on with the Premier League here? Because realistically, this is a private and confidential process, and if 6 teams are closing a takeover that they're apparently not meant to know about, you know, it makes you think about backhanders and anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Spot on, mate.
A lot of people asking where Ian Burns is. Of course, if you watch that week's show, he's on holiday. You know, MPs do have to have a holiday as well. He's not gone very far. He hasn't done a Dominic Cummings. I don't think he's gone as far. But he's having a bit of time away with his family, and ultimately, you know, he's not here to answer the questions. I did get a text off him yesterday, of course, which was a lot of expletives when he heard the news about the deal collapsing. So, well, look. He kept his side of the deal. He wrote to Richard Masters. He got a reply, which he kindly shared with me and said we could put out on social media. You know, that's what it's all about. I don't understand organisations writing to people and then not sharing it with the fans if it's got something to do with all of us. You know what I mean? I find that a bit strange. John O says, wasn't Stevie in tears, distraught, speaking with George Colton? Didn't sound like Brinkenship generally looked upset. Yes, she was upset. She wears her heart on her sleeve a bit like Kevin Keegan did. I've seen a GIF going around actually with Amanda's face superimposed on Kevin Keegan with the headphones, and I'd love it if it was.
I've seen that.
Just really, it's not a good president to set to other Premier clubs now.
No, it's not.
Any potential to take over the Friends position. No, it's not, Mitch. Right. Yeah, of course it doesn't. And this is the problem, you know, they've set themselves a new president, haven't they? That case is what do you think about the league not being officially notified about the buyers coming out? We did have a question earlier on as well from Cathal. They asked the same question. Yeah, I mean, Amanda mentioned that, didn't she, as well, to say that they hadn't been notified, but, you know, they've notified Mike Ashley, haven't they?
Yeah, and they're leaving it to Mike Ashley to sort out now. You know, the Saudis, got 7 days.
On you go. On you go.
Off your head. Get the Rottweiler out.
Leave it to him. Barry, perhaps some of this, the deal might be resurrected, but it is now up to Mike Ashley. They've covered this earlier on in the show. And essentially, you know, it could happen, but you know, it's now down to Mike Ashley to put the pressure on and you know turn the thumb screws on Premier League. And if that doesn't happen, then you know you can say that it's all off. Colin Wilson says, "Great show again. You've all done us to support the crowd. Thank you for that. And keep up the great work. Sav, happy birthday and enjoy the rest of your night. And I think that's a lovely place to finish. Wishing Sav another happy birthday.
Do you know what? I had a party popper to let off, but if I let it off, I think the dog might bite me. So I have to let it off.
Go on. Give it a go.
Shall I
Give it a go.
Oh,
Give it a go,
I
Sav.
do apologise. Oh no, the dog's all right.
So to finish off this week's episode of NUFC Matters, no dogs were hurt in the making. Listen, it's been fantastic. Just want to thank Mark Corby from NUFC 1980 tonight.
Yes.
I want to thank Dan for coming on from NUFC 360. Great to speak to him for the first time. Big shout out to Chris Wallace, of course, from Gallagher Scott. Always good to have him on. He was a bit down tonight. I've already had a tweet saying apologies. That wasn't the usual self. None of us are, I don't think. Huge thanks to Dan Fox for coming on and talking about mental health issues.
Anytime, mate.
Dan,
Anytime.
you want to come on, Dan, you're more than welcome, mate.
Cheers, Steve. I appreciate it, buddy.
And
how you got a full pipe, Dan? What's going on?
Well, to be honest with you, right, I'll just
you disappeared off before I saw.
Yeah,
I saw.
Just give us 2 seconds. What I'll do is I'll introduce my mother. So we're currently out for an Indian for my stepfather's birthday.
Oh,
so I've been out
brilliant.
It's a classic.
Nice.
So my stepfather's just nipped out and just dropped one on the table while I was trying to tickle us at the same time. So I was trying to keep a straight face.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, mate.
That's absolutely brilliant. And we just want to say thanks to Sav as well. Good to have you on. You're back on Monday, of course, with the ladies, which should be another good night. And the final thing to say is Eid Mubarak to anyone who is watching across in Saudi Arabia. We're sorry that this weekend hasn't turned out to be a positive one as far as the takeover is concerned, but there might still be life in the old dog yet. So I hope you enjoy the celebrations this weekend.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Cheers
to you as well.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.